When the Industrial Revolution began, many people began to move into cities. The majority of the people were working class. Most people were in slums where they lived crammed together in one-room apartments with 5 to 9 other people, some they didn't even know. Because people lived in such close proximity of one another, disease spread very quickly, and with the lack of medication, many died from common diseases. During the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, the living conditions were at first horrible, but then improvements came with the advance of medical technology, which led to government reforms that promoted better living conditions throughout all the social classes. Once in cities, the working class had to compete to live. Most lived in slums where crime was rampant. The sanitary conditions in cities were one of the worst aspects in living in the time of the Industrial Revolution. Diseases such as cholera spread throughout the city populations. Cholera was caused by the mixing of sewage and drinking water. With the lack of medication, over 50% of the people who were infected died within days, sometimes the same day as infection. City populations had increased so quickly that it was difficult for the government to create good infrastructures for those who lived there. Almost all the neighborhoods during the Industrial Revolution were cramped slums.
People became more concerned with their living conditions with the advance of the medical industry. In that, scientists were able to forward the study of microscopic organisms such as microbes. Upon the creation of the germ theory, most doctors rejected the concept, but after French chemist Louis Pasteur demonstrated the link between microbes and disease in 1870, doctors began to embrace the theory and analyze it more closely. When germs became a household word and people came to an understanding of how they cause disease, people began to practice good hygiene on a daily basis, such as bathing and changing their clothes more often. The common hospital was sanitized to perfection. Doctors even began to sterilize operational surgical tools.
The working class were the people who had pushed for many reforms. Workers protested for better conditions such as high pay, less working hours, and for working conditions. They created worker unions to protect the reforms that they had protested for. Laws were later passed to limit the age of child labor, stop women from working in the mines, gave old age pension, and disability insurance for injured or ill. Unfortunately, the price of luxury weren't cheap. Cities also made many important reforms. City planners made pipes to deliver safer, more hygienic water. They also created police forces to ensure the general safety of the people within cities. Street lights were also put in cities so that people were able to be outside during the night. The cities also made it mandatory for children to have some form of education. In 1870, the cities issued the Education Act, which added schools to areas who didn't have them and had the local children attend for a price. In 1902, a second act was made for secondary schools being funded by the government, allowing the lower and middle class to attend and receive a fair amount of education.
The living conditions that most faced during the Industrial Revolution pushed us to make better conditions from which we live with today. We learned much about disease and how to create comfort in the society that we now live in. The Industrial Revolution further developed the study of medicine, set standards of mandatory education, and improved city life. By studying the living conditions, effects, and results, we get a better idea of how the revolution in the 1800s is woven into our modern society.